Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. I got a great show on for you all tonight. Got to talk about the AFC West and the AFC South. A lot of I told you so coming true already with the Kansas City Chiefs, a hyperextended knee for Travis Kelce. They're going to wait until the swelling goes down to see if he's going to play Thursday or not. Pickles, I doubt if he will play. Plus, Chris Jones, even if he signs tonight or tomorrow, I'm pretty sure he's not going to play. Talk about that. Dabo Swinney, two of my playoff teams in college football have already got a loss. I missed that. Dabo Swinney not changing with the times, and it's starting to catch up with him and the University of Clemson. We'll get into all that and more here on Sports Scope. I'll be back in 49 seconds. We'll take our first and only break. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, let's talk about last night's game. Duke beats Clemson 28-7. Nobody saw that coming. Although Duke also has a really talented quarterback there. He's a junior. You just wonder, maybe he comes out, maybe he stays a year. Dabo Swinney, very reluctant to embrace the transfer portal and or name, image, and likeness. It's caught up with them. They have lost. Here's a stat I read here. I think this was from ESPN or somebody. I can't remember. Either way, Clemson's record from 2015 to 2015 to 2020, they were 79-7. From 2021 to now, they are 21-7. They have the same amount of losses in 3 years as they did in 5 years, and that's because Swinney is not embracing these changes here. Listen to Paul Fonbon on Get Up this morning talking about this losing streak of Clemson.
Dabo's dynasty is done. What else can anyone say, Greeny? It's really been teetering for a couple of years, but what happened last night is simply unexplainable. This is now the third loss out of the last 4 games for Clemson, and quite frankly, I don't see any.
And one of those losses to the South Carolina Gamecocks last year, and another one to Duke. So it's not like they're losing to Alabama or Georgia, Ohio State. They're losing to South Carolina and Duke. Paul Fonbon goes on.
The upside, they brought in Garrett Riley. That was supposed to be the savior. They had the quarterback that was going to be Trevor Lawrence's wonderkind, and frankly, nothing happened. And they didn't lose to a Florida State or a Notre Dame or an Alabama or a Georgia. They lost to Duke, which has a very good quarterback, a nice program, nice being the operative word. They have nowhere to go. And Dabo's nonsense after the game isn't going to impress anyone. This program is.
Yeah, and Mike Greenberg later asked him, he said, what do you mean by nonsense? I think he's mean by some of Dabo's cliches and stuff at the post game. So here's what he says. Got a few emails here. I emailed to myself. Dabo Swinney on name, image, and likeness. Actually, let's see. Let's go on the transfer portal. Mind you, he lost a 5-star player. The DJ Ugla, whatever his name is, transferred from Clemson over to Oregon State. Guy had a career night on Saturday night, getting their first win. It was against like San Diego State or whatever. But this is him on the transfer portal. That is all this stuff since 2021 has came into play. The transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. And Dabo, of all people, he's kind of a younger coach as fair compared to a guy like Nick Saban. He has not embraced this. This is his comment on the transfer portal. After this, got this off YouTube. After this advertisement here.
We've had a couple of players here that said that they appreciate you not hitting the transfer portal, that shows commitment and loyalty to those players. Is that why you don't hit the portal much?
We just haven't had to. I think it's been more, I mean, certainly I've always said, we're a developmental program. We always have been. And if you're constantly bringing guys in over the top of guys, that changes your culture. That's just part of it. And it also, you probably didn't evaluate well. But it's a different situation everywhere. It's very different. If I was just coming to Clemson right now, half my roster would be transfer portal. If I was just taking over a team and you got to win like yesterday, right? It's a different world than when I became the head coach. Very different in college football. And because if I was just named head coach at Clemson, probably half the guys would leave.
Well, sound like he's a little under the weather there. That was before they lost to Tennessee in the Orange Bowl last year, saying we hadn't need to. We're a developmental program and all that. Nick Saban says you could say the same thing. They've had better classes. He still brings in players from other schools. He's learning to adapt to this. You could see he's very dismissive on the transfer portal. Here is him on name, image, and likeness. After this cheesy commercial on YouTube.
Honestly, I was thinking about it this summer. I was thinking through it, and for me, we built this program on NIL. We really did, and it's probably different than what you're thinking, though. We built this program in God's name, image, and likeness. And that's how I look at it. So as things have changed, God has always been, the foundation of what I do. And so
he's guys have been of faith and all that, but you've got to adjust with the times. Now, talk about the losses to teams like Duke, South Carolina, Tennessee. That's 3 of the last 4 there. Now, Tennessee's on the up and coming. I'll give them that loss there. But if what happened last night doesn't shake him, nothing will. I mean, this guy can go from a dominating coach. He's won 2 national championships within about 5-year span there, and 2 top quality quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 overall pick just a few years ago. But all this change, he is still reluctant to do so. We have to do it in life. I don't like to do change, but sometimes you're forced to do it. It's whether it be technology, some type of new rule in the sport or business you're in. So that is what it is. His lack of embracing these things. Now, his recruiting, they've been around the top 10 over the last few years since the NIL name and transfer portal has came in about. He hasn't hit the transfer portal yet. I don't know how many. I know they've lost that 5-star quarterback last year, and he wasn't playing well in their system. Plus, they've lost their defensive coordinator, who's now at Oklahoma. He's now learning about that change, plus turnover of coaches here, what Nick Saban's been dealing with for 15 years of having the kind of success he has at Alabama. But right now, if he don't change with the times, as good as a job as he's done in the past, this is a what for you done for me lately. type of sport here, I could see them, the fans kind of getting frustrated with Dabo. I think he will adjust. What happened last night? You get blown out by Duke like that. If that don't get your attention, nothing will. He doesn't come off as a lazy coach. He comes off as a guy that's really wants to do things his way, a certain way. But we'll see. That's an interesting story to follow. Again, that was a bad scope of me. When I make a big mistake like that, picking LSU and Clemson in the playoff, I own it and say, hey, listen, with this transfer portal the way it is, I talked about this last week. Guys like Urban Meyer, anywhere from 11 to 12 teams could win the national championship. Now you're seeing a team like a Colorado come up out of nowhere and win a game here. This transfer portal, you can pull players out from other teams that are formal 3 and 4, 5-star players, might not fit a scheme, may have a run-in with a coach. A coach may take another job. Coach may get fired. And it's really level things out. Plus, you add in the playoff that's coming. It's going to be expanded. The negative to all this, the big negative to all this, is it's going to water down the regular season a little bit. You just don't hope it don't get watered down as much as the college basketball, for crying out loud, when you got 60-something teams there. Was it 64, 68 teams in there? Nobody watches your sport for maybe 2.5, 3 weeks, and that's during the tournament. Don't see it getting that bad, but I do see something of that nature happening. And actually, I really like Dabo Swinney. I think he will adapt and adjust. But if internally, if they don't adjust, the game will pass them by. Thank you, Pickles. So, okay, as predicted a few months ago, I said switching gears here to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, came out today, Pickles, Travis Kelce, hyperextended knee. They're going to wait till the swelling goes down. I'm reading different reports. The one that's most consistent could be 1 to 2 weeks. Did an x-ray, didn't tear anything, but I said this before. He's going to be 34 years old in October. Travis Kelce is going to be 34 years old in October. I don't see him being this high value of a available target for Patrick Mahomes. Okay. So you got to look at that. I'll say this, Carlos, there's a good chance if he don't play Thursday, and even if he signs right now, as we speak, it is 7:13 on Tuesday night. We're 48 hours away from kickoff and 15 minutes to be exact. By the way, Thursday, the program will be on 1 hour early, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. I'll give you my last 2 divisions in the NFC, and I'll give you my playoff predictions. But you add that in with Chris Jones missing. Listen, I got this stat off of Get Up as well. Okay. When Chris Jones is on the field, the quarterback rating is 52. The QBR rating is 52. They get pressure 35% of the time, 44 rush win rate. Okay, those little advanced metrics here off Get Up. When he's off the field, the QBR goes all the way up to 66%. The pressure percentages drops from 35 to 27, and pass rush 29% win rate versus 44. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. It's a much bigger deal for Chris Jones to be out than it is for Travis Kelce. And by the way, the odds makers think it is too. FanDuel now has Kansas City. I've already locked it in 6.5 yesterday, but now Kansas City's a 6-point favorite. They've already lost a 6-point favorite there. Not to mention some of the other issues I've said. They lost their left tackle, Orlando Brown. They replaced him with Donovan Smith, who filled in last year with Tampa, 13 games, listed as a starter. They originally signed Jawan Taylor, wanting to move him to right tackle, which from right to left. They changed their mind, moved him back to right tackle, Jawan Taylor here. And they end up, like I said, they got this guy, Donovan Smith, which is a downgrade. He is a downgrade from Orlando Brown because they thought that they had Houston's Laremy Tunsil in a trade. That falls through. Houston extends Laremy Tunsil. Okay, if you guys follow me here. So you are shifting the left tackle and the right tackle here. I think they'll be okay on that right side. The left side's the most important. Not sure if Donovan Smith's going to be the caliber of a Laremy Tunsil or a Orlando Brown. Plus, you could have a few weeks without. I don't think Kelsey's going to play Thursday. You're going to have a few weeks without Kels and Chris Jones. If Chris Jones comes back next week, by the way, next week they got to play Jacksonville, Pickles. They got to play at Jacksonville next week. They could go 0-2 right off the bat if both of those players are out. It's going to be hard to get Chris Jones acclimated. This guy, training camp started at the end of July, folks. Now it's September the 5th. He's 6-8 weeks out, okay? So if you look at it that perspective, he's going to be on there on situational plays. He'll be on a snap count, probably 2 to 3 weeks Chris Jones will be, all right? And as I mentioned, the same thing with the hyperextended knee there with Travis Kelce, a lot of swelling. Maybe he comes back in 2 weeks. Maybe he's eased in as well there. So I'm just saying, this Kansas City Chief team, I said a few weeks ago that I did not think that the Chiefs were going to win the AFC West. I think the Chargers, now from everything I'm seeing and reading, plus they're banged up at wide receiver here. I don't know if they had a wide receiver that was held out. I can't remember the guy's name now. I think it was the guy they got over from the Giants there, per se. But, this team, just giving you an indication, they play Detroit Thursday, a good chance that the Detroit beats them. By the way, so if I'm Detroit, I'm looking at this team and I'm thinking, okay, we've signed David Montgomery, one of the better north to south running backs we've had in a long time. We've got this rookie here. I wouldn't put it all on Jahbar Gibbs. He's just a rookie. It's his first NFL career start. Probably going to be a little nervous here. Move him in on third downs. But this David Montgomery, I would run him probably 20 times right up the middle, right where normally Chris Jones would be here. I think Brett Veach is really playing a game of chicken that he doesn't want to win. But, hey, they just won the Super Bowl. Right? I think he's gotten too much faith in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid connection there. But if Mahomes is sitting on the sideline and you've got this guy, David Montgomery, pounding the rock, Montgomery would get about 20 carries, and then I'd give about 10 to 15 to this, probably 10 to Gibbs. That doesn't count 7 or 8 pass attempts to Jahbar Gibbs. You've got a veteran quarterback and a Jared Goff there, top 5 offensive line on their side, according to Pro Football Focus there. Plus, they've upgraded, got some secondary help on their defense, led by, Aiden Hutchinson as pass rusher. Don't be surprised if Friday, Carlos, we're talking about Kansas City losing their opening game. It rarely happens, folks, for a Super Bowl champ to lose their opening game at home. But it happened last year against Buffalo and the LA Rams. And we saw what happened to the Rams last year. All right. The Rams didn't make the playoffs, and now they're totally rebuilt. Don't see that kind of fall off from Kansas City. But if you look at Kansas City, who they depend on, you look at Chris Jones, my guess is they'll probably bring him back after 2 or 3 weeks when they're 1-2, or possibly 0-3. I think they'll bring him back and ease him in there slowly. But this Kansas City team, let's see, what did I put them as? I got them going anywhere from 11-6, but probably closer to a 10-7. Probably closer to a 10-7 type of season. You say, why do you think they're doing this? Well, I think Brett Veach is looking at cap hits that Mahomes is going to bring to the team, and maybe he's trying to save a little here and there with players like Chris Jones. Remember, they let a safety go there last year, but that was okay. They let Tyreek Hill go. Those type of players you can let go. But when you have a dominant player, remember when Chris Jones was out a few years ago, if you guys recall, back in 21, right? 21. He was out 2 weeks, blown out at home by Buffalo, blown out 1 week later by Tennessee. Now they got it together, got back in the championship game, and of course, that's when Cincinnati beat them. But this year, the league is much better, okay? You're an older team. The Chargers are much more mature. They are built up better. They're a little bit more hungry, okay? The Raiders, I started looking at the Raiders. The Raiders are better, you know? Denver's going to be better. How much? Denver's got their own problems. They've got 3 wide receivers that will not play in week 1. But the Chargers are the class of that. They are the class of that division, folks. Okay, and let me go ahead and go back to the Chargers here. Okay, so just giving you a preview, kind of just doing a little transfer here. I'm going to give you all the standings for the AFC West, then I'll try the AFC South here in a minute. Chargers hire Keelan Moore from Dallas. Very good offense in Dallas. A little too pass happy for me. I'm sure that this defensive-minded head coach, Brandon Staley, he got away from his crazy analytic talk and moves last year. That's why they got into the playoffs. But mind you, this team had Rashawn Slater, their left tackle, out most of the year, broken ribs with Justin Herbert, plays through them, and they still get to the playoff. And they blew a big lead against Jacksonville, and of course, that happened. But like I said, they've added this Quentin Johnson here at wide receiver. Already a deep team there, folks. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James. I mean, just a really good secondary. Sante Samuel Jr. there. Got playmakers all over that defense. Okay, so they're going to have some balance at the running game there. They're going to have some balance on all 3 levels of defense. Don't got them as being the best defense by no means. They could use a good tackle, but they're going to be better on that side of the ball. More depth at the wide receiver position, more maturity, very hungry team. Blew quite a few games, including one to Kansas City on a Thursday night, if you recall, just last year. Okay, so I do think that this team is hungry. I do think the adjustment is going to pay off. I do think that there's talent on both sides of the ball. Michael Jordan says you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. That's what they've been dealing with the last 2 years. You could see the talent with this Charger team. So I do think it comes up, and they finished this season at 13-4. They are going to be in position to get the best record in the AFC. Thursday, I'll give you my playoffs, okay? But they're going to be in position with the Jets team to possibly have the best record in the AFC, in my opinion, just judging by this. Okay. All right, let's go down to Denver. All right, since I did change, Denver looked good early on. Okay, let's start back at the end of last season. They fire Hackett, right? They get rid of Hackett. Nobody thinks it's going to happen. I thought maybe Brandon Staley from the Chargers would get fired, and they'll bring in Sean Payton. That didn't happen. They end up getting the bidding war and hiring Sean Payton. Now, then March comes. Free agency starts. They address the offensive line immediately. signed the best pass blocking guard, this guy named Ben Powers from Baltimore, got him on there. Then they turn around and sign Mike McGlinchey. He is a right tackle from San Francisco. Settled that right off the bat. Everything started looking good. Now, you fast forward to preseason training camp, whatnot. You got Jerry Jeudy. Now he's going to be hurt. Could be out 2 or 3 weeks. Going to miss some games. He's not on the injured reserve, so it's not going to be the minimum 4 game. I did see that. But Judy's got a hamstring problem. They don't want to rush him back. That happened around the 25th of August. So we're a couple of weeks out from that. Was it Hamler? Hamlin, those guys lost those receivers. No real reliable tight end for Denver to throw to here with and plus Russell Wilson playing deep into the some of these preseason games makes me think that he's not quite looking as polished and as sharp as Sean Payton would like. But that being said, they do got a good roster, though. I started looking at their roster here, and, they still got guys like Brandy Gregory. Remember him? Used to play with Dallas. Pretty good pass rusher here. Strong safety, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons. Very good secondary. Patrick Surtain Jr., one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Got Frank Clark over from Kansas City, another player that Kansas City lost. DJ Jones there. Pretty fair to good defense. Now, Javonte Williams is not considered injury. That guy would get the ball a lot. He would get a lot of screen passes if it's me. That's going to be a good fantasy play here. Coming back from injury, though, and Cortland Sutton's probably going to be the key guy. Like I said, Hamler, Handler, I think he's off the team now, but Tim Patrick on the IR. So they're Marvin Mims. They're trying to depend on guys like Marvin Mims and Adam Trotman. I think that's a guy that comes over from the Saints there. But a pretty good offensive line there. Garrett Bowles back. He was hurt last year. McGlinchey, Ben Powers, like I mentioned before, that could save them and keep them in a lot of games, folks. That could keep them on a lot of games with that defense. But I think they're going to have trouble scoring early in the season, which means they could get upset. They open up against the Raiders and play against this hungry, energetic Washington team. They could start 0-2. The Raiders beat them twice last year, by the way. And I'm about to go over the Raiders here in a minute. The Raiders, believe it or not, they've had a more favorable preseason. Their stock has went up since the preseason. Aiden O'Connell, the 5th-round pick, looks like he could possibly be a starter. He could possibly take over next year for Jimmy Garoppolo, who adjusted his salary today, by the way. They created $17 million in cap space. I read that about the Raiders. They signed Tyree Wilson, who was injured, defensive end from Texas Tech. Pretty good film on this guy. Looks good for the Raiders. Max Crosby, got him with Crosby. So, and Chandler Jones. So they got some edge rushers, and they've never had a pass rush. They're going to be better at pass rush. They're just kind of weak on the back end, and they still got some holes in the middle of their offensive line, and they got a quarterback who's hurt all the time. I don't know how good a shape Josh Jacobs is. Now, he supposedly came back and working out, but how much is he? I mean, he missed most of training camp because of holdout with the franchise tag and whatnot, but they got him back there. But they're going to give Denver a lot of problems. So I had Denver 11-6. Now I'm thinking I got Denver like at 9-8. Okay. And like I said, the Raiders, yeah, they got some players. I don't know if it's all going to come together, though. Did they upgrade? Adding Jacoby Myers, Austin Hooper at tight end with Devontae Adams to kind of offset each other. Yeah. They're going to look pretty decent there, this Raider team. But overall, the Raiders defense is still going to be bad. You don't know if, but when Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get hurt, because he's always hurt. and you don't know how good rookie Aiden O'Connell is going to do, even though they still got Hoyer, technically, in air quotes, ahead of him on the depth chart. But so all that in a nutshell, going back to Denver, probably 9-8. I just don't think they're going to get there this year. There's going to be too many issues scoring early. Got a pretty rough schedule here. Play teams like the Jets early. And again, the Raiders swept them last year. Who's to say that the Raiders won't sweep them again this year? You know, I mean, they've got the Raiders week 1 at home, Washington at Miami. Yeah, they could probably beat the Bears, but then they got to play the Jets, this really good Jets team, at Kansas City on Thursday night, week 6. Kansas City may not have anybody anyways. So, 9-8, something like that for Denver. And again, with the Raiders, probably 7-10 to 6-11. Still don't believe in them long term. Just don't think they quite have the depth inside on the offensive line. Defensively, they're better, but they still have to add some pieces. Not really in love with Josh. Whatchamacallit there, the head coach down there. He's probably more coordinator material. So you ask me, how does this division, how does it all lay out? Okay. AFC West, where are you at? All right. Again, Chargers, 13-4. If they stay relatively healthy, win the AFC West. All right. Kansas City, 10-7. I finally went with 10-7. They're going to be really close to that last wild card. They're not going to win the AFC West this year. There's too many variables there working against this Kansas City team. I know I bet against them before, and it's came back again on me, but I don't think so this time. Denver 9-8, and then 7-10 for the Vegas Raiders. Okay, Carlos says, if Garoppolo stays healthy, the rest could sneak up and mess up those Charger dreams, and they can also beat Denver early, and they could possibly beat Kansas City. Okay, again, if Chris Jones, he's saying he could sit out the tackle for 7. If Chris Jones really sits out 7 weeks, and they brought him back in week 8 or 9 after the bye week or whatever, it's going to take him 2 to 3 weeks to get in football shape, not to mention the fact that he could get injured. Not to mention that Chris Jones could get injured. If that is so, Pickles, if that is so, again, look at the games that he missed a couple of years ago. They were blown out twice. Not saying they'll get, air quote, blown out this time. They won't run into a hot Titans team or a red-hot Buffalo Bills team. But I do think that Mahomes is going to be frustrated, sitting on the sideline. He's going to press more. He's going to press more to make big plays down the field, okay? And that could lead to turnovers, all right? So that's my prediction. They're not going to win that division, Pickles. The Chargers will win that division this year. Could be wrong. Been wrong a lot here lately. I was wrong about Clemson in the playoff. I was wrong about LSU in the playoff. But calling it like I see it. It's not going to be a cakewalk for the Chargers or for this Chiefs team. And trust me, you're going to see it on Thursday night. That's going to be an airtight game. Okay. All righty then. Let's move to the south side. Okay, yeah, let me go ahead and talk about the Colts. I think the Colts are going to finish last. This Colts team, Lord knows when they're going to get something done with Jonathan Taylor. Taylor could get moved around the trade deadline. I think that Jim Irsay will come off his high horse and eventually trade the guy. Anthony Richard, like I said and predicted, going to be listed as the week 1 starter, okay? The over and under for this team is 6.5 wins. But, I did look up their offensive line. It's in the top 10. It's in the top 10. Want to say pretty close to that with their defensive line as well. Richardson, week 1 starter, super raw, going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to sneak up on some people, though, because people's going to overlook him because he is that rookie. But like I said, with Shane Steichen being their new head coach, offensive-minded head coach, they're going to do exactly what Philadelphia did. Jim Irsay saw that look last year when the Eagles played at the Colts, and then he saw this Richardson kid, and he saw Steichen, and he put all that together in his head, and he said, yeah, I'm going to get that. We're going to try to do that because we can emulate a lot of that because we got a good offensive line. It's not Philly good, but it is considered a good offensive line. It's in the top third of the league. So that's all he's thinking about, Jim Irsay. He just wants to see Richardson improve week to week. He don't care how much they win or lose. Okay? They're not going to win 6.5 games or 7 games. They're probably going to win 4 to 5 games this year. But all he wants to see is if they can see him improve. He'll probably be the leading rusher on the team as well. This is just breaking this guy in as a starting quarterback in the league. Okay? And, of course, if he don't work out, maybe they go after a Caleb Williams or a Drake May. I don't think they will, though. I think they're going to roll with this guy throughout the season. But as all the books are saying, like I'm saying, not a hot take. I got them finishing 4th in the AFC South. Now, you say, same situation. That's why I told you guys beforehand, and I really haven't changed since we talked about this in the offseason, is it's the same thing with Houston now that C.J. Stroud is named the starter. Now, Stroud's got a defensive-minded head coach. Stroud has looked bad in his only start. Maybe he had 2 starts. I don't know. He looked bad in his first start against New England. Doesn't really have any big targets to throw to. They're just trying to get him acclimated in the system. They're going to be a running team with David Pierce. Now, they've got a decent offensive line as well. Left tackle, Laremy Tunsil, extended him. Got Will Anderson on the defensive line. So they're going to go all out. Now, they could, unlike Indianapolis, they could switch quarterbacks if they feel like Stroud is hitting a downward spiral in the middle of the season where he's getting hit too much or he's not reading defenses properly and put Mills back in there. And you say, why? Because Arizona has got their first-round pick because they traded up and got the second pick, and was it Will Anderson from Alabama? They got the Alabama pass rusher. So, and, looking at some of their stats here, they're not a bad defensive team. They're not bad against the pass. I was looking at them this morning, and I was surprised at how good they were, actually, defensively. Remember, they pushed Kansas City to overtime. They beat Tennessee towards the end. What is this? Their stats right here. I think this might be. Let me double check here. Yeah, defensively, in passing, they were 8th against the pass, 5th against the run D in the AFC. Okay, second in sacks. Second in interceptions. Not a bad team here. So they'll probably upset somebody late. They could beat a Tennessee late. They could beat a Jacksonville late. Yeah, they beat Jacksonville at Jacksonville in week 1 last year. Now that I think about it, this David Pierce, it's going to be a lot of him. Second-year running back, really had a good rookie year. You could see him hit that rookie wall towards the end. But these guys they're in the same boat as the Colts are, except they're going to try like all get out to win more this year because they don't want Arizona to get that better of a draft pick, and they want to see what they got at quarterback. Okay, they want to see what they got at quarterback, but like I said, they got a pretty decent secondary. They're not a bad team. They just got to get that quarterback position squared away. But they're still going to be Probably 5-12. So I got them finishing third in the AFC South. No hot take there. Pickle said he was wrong about LSU too, straight up. Yeah. Man, me and you both. Well, they've got talent for days, you know. So anyways, going right along here to the Tennessee Titans. I was looking up, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, the Pro Football Focus standings on offensive line help and everything. The Tennessee's got, I was curious of what the preseason rankings were for Pro Football Focus as far as the offensive line rankings coming into this season. Not an exact science. But they did have, and I'm not sure if I agree with this, they had Philadelphia, the number one defensive line, even though they've lost Hargrave, but they got Jalen Carter. Possibly, but Reddick is banged up. But they also had Philly as the number one offensive line, Cleveland as number two. That's why I'm high on the Browns, like I mentioned yesterday's program, okay? The Titans are still 32nd, according to Pro Football Focus, and they've got Sonorski in there. Andre Dillard, remember, he was a backup at Philadelphia, okay? But I didn't see any scrambling by the Titans to replace Dillard, so I think he's going to be better than people think. And I think this Brunskill guy has turned out to be another big find there for the Titans. But, and they're going out and getting DeAndre Hopkins. That's one rookie you have on your team, or one veteran you have on your team that's you can depend on. You got Derrick Henry is another veteran you can depend on. And, of course, Ryan Tannehill. If you keep those three healthy, and I'm going to tell you, Jacksonville, it's not as rosy as I thought for them either. But if you keep those three healthy, Tennessee can win this division for 17 games. Now, that's a big if, okay? All three have been injured recently. They're all three vets. Now, Henry's not in his 30s, but DeAndre Hopkins and Ryan Tannehill are in their 30s, okay? But you look at that. I'll mention Okwankwo at tight end. Think he's going to be really good. But remember, their right tackle, he's going to be suspended for the first 6 games. That hurts. The Hubbard's okay, but Nicholas Petit-Ferreira played all 17 games last year. So I'm 50-50 on that Saints game. Because Arden Key, Landry, they got a top 10 defensive line according to Pro Football Focus. They've gotten better in the secondary. Bunton's going to be better in the secondary, especially since he beat out the Auburn player. There's a rookie that played pretty well last year. Okay, and then, of course, you got Christian Fulton there, Kevin Byard. So you've got a pretty decent second. You got a competent secondary. And you have a really good front seven with Tennessee. Jeffrey Simmons, Autry, Tier Tart, one of the better interior defensive line in the league for Tennessee. If they can just keep Tannehill upright somewhat and get this offensive line 20-18 instead of 32nd, Tennessee can win this division straight up. That's too many ifs. I've talked about their schedule ad nauseum, how rough it is. The first 6 games, okay, with all those playoff teams, Cincinnati, Cleveland, people were expecting the Saints to win the division. Baltimore, they're playing them in Europe somewhere. They could beat Baltimore. But those are some tall asks there. Like I said, it's not a given that they'll beat Houston or the Colts. They should, but it's not a given. So I do think that this team is 9-8, 7-10. But there is hope. They are on the border. they're going to be in the hunt all year. 6 months ago, 7 months ago, they would not be in the hunt all year. They would be in the mix possibly for third or fourth. But since they decided to keep these guys, since they got Sonorski, since they got Brunskill, some of the adjustments they made on that line, they found a way to keep Henry, and then they turn around and got DeAndre Hopkins. And it looks really good, DeAndre Hopkins. I got to give them a shot because they kept this core defense together. I thought maybe they'd cut Byard, but they didn't, So this team could definitely get in the playoffs, but they'll have to win this division. And like Pickle says, Cam Robertson for Jacksonville, that's their left tackle. He's suspended for the first 4 weeks, okay? Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, Jawan Taylor, they lost him to the Chiefs, okay? They got this other guy, Josh Wells, per se. This Josh Wells, well, he got hurt. He's out for the season for Jacksonville. So so Pro Football Focus is not in love with their line either. Pro Football Focus has these guys. Now, they got this guy, Brandon Sharif, at right guard. He's really good. He's a little long in the tooth, but he's good. But they have a rookie, the 27th pick, this Aton Harrison. He's going to be playing right tackle from Oklahoma, 27th pick. And they're going to have a fill-in here. They're going to alternate at left tackle the first 4 weeks, okay? They got to play the Chiefs in week 2. They got the Colts up there. The Colts could upset them in week 1. Don't think so, but they could. So you're doing a lot of and Pro Football Focus has them ranked 26th. They have them down 7 spots from last year. Yes, they got Calvin Ridley in a trade with Atlanta. Remember, Ridley was suspended last year because of gambling, but he was the number 1 receiver for Alabama. Okay, for Alabama, but he was from Alabama, but he was with the Falcons because Julio started going downhill. So they do have a very good skill set here with Calvin Ridley. Who's the other guy? I thought I screenshotted their depth chart, but I may not have. Oh, here we go. Okay, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram signed up. Walker Little is considered questionable. That's the fill-in at left tackle for Cam Robertson. So now they may put in a rookie at left tackle. They may move Sharif and put him at tackle. He's long in the tooth. So you say, Robert, what are you saying? I'm saying that that they're going to have trouble in pass blocking. Okay. Trevor Lawrence is a big guy, but he is kind of a lanky player. Okay. He's the kind of guy that could get hurt. If he gets hurt, they can be in trouble. They've got some problems on the back end of their defense. I don't know why they didn't go harder at addressing their offensive line. I really don't know, but they've had some guys, like I said, this Josh Wells guy's on IR. Cooper Hodges, he's another guard, right guard. They don't really have a lot of depth on their offensive line. He's on IR. All this stuff happened during training camp, but you got skill players for days. Lawrence, of course, Travis Etienne. They signed Tank Bigsby. And now CJ Beathard, if he's quarterback, these guys are beat, man. If this guy plays 2 or 3 games for Jacksonville, Tennessee can catch them and beat them for this division. But I just can't see Doug Peterson letting the offensive line slip that much. Maybe they're seeing something we don't in practice, but they have their problems at offensive line. Some people are saying Jacksonville could get the 1 seed. I say, no, it's going to be the Jets. it's going to be Cleveland, or it's going to be the Chargers. Right now, if I'm going over the AFC, it's probably going to be the Chargers. I have to do some averages. Probably going to be that Charger team. And the 2 seeds probably going to be the Jets. So I've got one in the AFC East. I'll say that Jacksonville, let me go to the standings here. I got them winning at 10-7. All right. Could Tennessee be 10-7, 11-6 and beat them? Yeah, possibly. But I just don't have enough data. I don't have enough on their offensive line to make that, because I do think that Tannehill's going to get banged up. And then you've seen the backups there. And they're going to put Malik Willis in there. This is sure as I'm sitting here, because Will Levis can't stay healthy. But Tennessee is in the hunt. It's going to be interesting to see them in the hunt. Okay? And again, Thursday, give you my playoff breakdown. But right now, I don't got Buffalo in the playoffs. I know that's why it's a hot take. 9-8. I got them at right about 9-8. Don't got Tennessee in the playoffs. No Denver. Kansas City's going to be barely. I had to go back and look and see some of my standings there. Pittsburgh, possibly they pass them up. I'll give you all that on Thursday, though. So, like I said, it's a battle of attrition in the NFL. You can't predict injuries, but that position, offensive line, you just can't poo-poo that, not unless you've got an extremely athletic quarterback and you're doing some kind of read option stuff. You might get away with it there, but you're not going to get away with it for long. Not unless you just can't do it. You cannot win long-term with the bad offensive line. Look at the Steelers, how they played the last few years, okay? Tank will be in there sooner than later for the Jags. Yeah, that's the other running back there for the Jags. So they've got all these players. I don't know how long they're going to, how many shots downfield that Jacksonville's going to take without Cam Robertson in. So there is, everybody's got some questions about them. You know, everybody in this league's got some kind of question. Even Cincinnati, even Cincinnati, the Jets, I mean, if they got a 38-year-old left tackle and a 39-year-old quarterback, and those are the teams I'm looking to do well. The Chargers, they got a very pass-happy OC. They got an indecisive head coach who has brain cramps at times. He's only 39. He's young himself, and Brandon Staley. So, and in Kansas City, the anchor of their defense may miss 7 or 8 games, and then their top target on offense has got a hyperextended knee, and you don't know how long he's going to be out. So everybody has their questions. We talked about the offensive line for the Titans. Can Lamar Jackson be a prolific passer? I don't have Baltimore making the playoffs this year. Okay. So it's going to be a little different. It's probably going to be Cleveland in the north. Cincinnati gets a wild card. And Miami gets a wild card. So I have to go back and check this again. I may not have a Kansas City in the playoffs. I have to go back and look this over. I'll give you those final analysis on Thursday with the Super Bowl prediction. Okay? If you guys like the show, please share the show. I greatly appreciate it. Have to get as much viewership as possible, even though I have been cold here lately. Really missed on LSU and Clemson, man. So you got to adapt with the times. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you same time, same place on SportsScope tomorrow.